In terms of the stakeholders with this particular assessment of risks, we've got again domain subject matter expert, huge value to come up with what are the likelihood of something happening, because they're the people who've seen there, who've been there, done that, who have got that sense of, okay, this is the area likely to be affected if we have gone down this channel or this route. And then the solution subject matter expert would be the people who would come up with ways to understand, to come up with solutions that would help address those. So essentially, these are sitting on two sides of the coin. So one is on the problem side, which is basically domain, the opportunities, identify the pain areas, the challenges, the constraints, the risks. And then the solution side, on the implementation side, is basically to address what can we do to address those needs, those opportunities, to work on the threats that are imposed by that are being posed by the external factors, and what can we do to come up with a plausible solution to face those. And then we obviously have a project manager, which is very important, unlike all the other ones, because in the context of risk, the project manager is a person who has got the authority, and also the right perspective to be able to own the risks. So we as BAs could actually be playing the role of supporting the project manager in the risk management, because they have a better grip in terms of maintaining the overall risk strategy for the entire program or the project, not just for the requirements or the stakeholders or the communications or the product or the features, the technology, but pretty much they have got a comprehensive outlook. So this is where I would say that we as BAs need to work in close proximity with the project managers, with the scrum masters, and with the program managers, the portfolio managers, whatever you call it as, with them, so that we are helping them to identify every potential area of risk, and the likelihood of it occurring, the impact, etc., etc. And then we can come up with a comprehensive approach to address those. And that's why I say that project manager is really, really very critical in this particular activity that we do here. The regulators, obviously, they are going to be the bodies who are going to help us guide which are the likelihood areas, which are the likely areas where risks might occur. So, for example, GDPR on the data protection, the privacy, would actually help us. If you do not do this, then there is a likelihood that you are potentially infringing on the privacy or the right to privacy of some of your customers. So make sure you do that. Do these 1, 2, 3 steps. So they are actually going to tell that, you know what, we are doing this regulation. We've got this regulation because we found this somewhere else where there is a potential breach, and that's why we're advising, we are directing and guiding every other organization within this industry to follow this, right? So we have that sense of what happened elsewhere should not affect our business, so it's better to follow what the regulators and the compliance authorities would actually expect us to do, basically complying. And then the sponsorship, so the sponsors again would play a significant role in terms of understanding what their budgets are, so that we can try and play around with that. What are the expectations, the goals, and the objectives of this project, of this program at a higher level, so we can try and mold ourselves, our potential actions, to be in line with those objectives and the directives of the sponsors. And testers, again, very important. Testers would provide us the right implementation, the right instrumentation for us to understand what are the likely areas within the product, within the solution that we're trying to develop, within the process. Where are the areas internally that could affect us? They're the right set of stakeholders to be able to identify the risks beforehand, that even before it reaches to the in the hands of customers and users and the rest of the stakeholders. So very important here in this context of the risk assessment. So what kind of techniques do we use in this activity? Brainstorming, very important, because we do not want to leave any area unturned, any stone unturned to address what could be the potential areas. So that's why we need to invite the right set of people, throw the floor open, get all the ideas possible, and then try and cater to all those potential risks. So again, very important. Business case, again, it is important that you maintain the costs, the benefits and the costs, do an analysis of this pros and cons, and then come up with one option that would potentially have lesser risk compared to the other one. So essentially, when you try and create the business case, it's the opposite way. When you try and create a business case, you must address the potential risks involved with the option. So each option, for example, if there are three options that are in front of you, or even if it's just two options, like for example, either you're buying a solution to implement the customer relationship management solution, or you've got the option to build that upfront, build that completely from the ground up using your own in-house team. For example, let's take this is the set of two options that you have available: buy or build. Then you need to be able to clearly specify the costs, the benefits involved, the value that you're going to offer, and more importantly, in this context, all the potential risks involved with the buy as well as with the build. So that actually gives you a level playing field to be able to assess things objectively, so that you see what are the costs involved with buy vis-a-vis build, what are the benefits that are involved with the buy vis-a-vis build, and most importantly, what are the risks that are likely to occur if you go with the buy vis-a-vis the build. So you're actually having a better sense of benchmarking, better sense of comparison and contrast amongst these two options, and then you can take a good decision, an informed decision as to which one is a better way to go ahead with. So very important in that context. Again, a decision analysis, again following the business case, a decision analysis in terms of what we just discussed, which option, which decision weighs better in terms of the overall set of options that you have. And the document analysis again is important, because there, as they say, the devil lies in detail. So sometimes it's just not it's just not the overall sense of what we're going to do. Sometimes we need to really delve deeper, look into the real smaller footprint, and then read between the lines of what are written in the manuals and the terms and conditions, in the privacy policies and all those things, so that we can identify what could be potentially risky if you go ahead with one option or one decision later. So very important that we study, analyze, understand, and identify any potential risks from these different types of documents. Financial analysis, obviously, that's where risk actually has its roots in. Very important to understand what are the potential risks involved in the aspect of carrying an investment. It could be again going down to the business case, investment option A, option B, option C. What are the potential likely payback, and what is the kind of discounted cash flows, and what are the return on investment across these different three options, for example. And then you can take a better call in terms of which one works out the best, considering the break-even periods, the payback, and the return, and then the discounted cash flows, and all those different financial analysis options. And then the interviews, very important again to understand from the point of view of the stakeholders, the senior management and the CXOs and the management stakeholders, to understand from a strategic perspective what are the potential risks involved in carrying out this program or the initiative, and then perhaps that would help us take some steps in reducing the risks. And then lessons learned, obviously looking back, this is more of a looking back and then trying to understand what can we do differently from what we did before. How differently can we address the problems if they occur in this project again. So those are again some of the things, discussions that you would like to have with the team members, and again using some kind of brainstorming, so clubbing these two to come up with options and ways to counter. Mind mapping, again, this would help us to lay things down clearly, identify where the areas that have got some touch point, what are the areas that could potentially have some dependencies on what we're doing, and then address those dependencies in a way that would help us avoid the risk or mitigate the risk. Again, this is this risk analysis and management, pretty much comes through as a technique pretty much in all the activities And this is really important. It's not just about assessment of risk, but it's also about how we're going to mitigate the risk, how we're going to manage the risk continuously. So that's again a key technique that we use here across root cause analysis, trying to understand not just the superficial surface level symptoms, but really diving deep, understanding what could be the potential root cause for that occurrence of that problem. I think that's a very important point to consider. Again, surveys, questionnaires would just give you the kind of the areas that could potentially have some problems, but they don't really help much in terms of giving you the logic or the rationale of why they're doing. So you still can use it as a kind of a quantitative technique just to get a bit of get a pulse on the hand, as they say, or hand on the pulse in terms of what's really happening around with the market. But once you get that, then I think you can supplement that with a lot of other techniques.